Let's see. There's one. There's two. There we go. Look at that. We didn't unalive ourselves. We did it. What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. So like you probably saw in the shots before this, we got something a little bit different this week. We're gonna be fixing up an old club car, golf cart. It's got a lift kit in it. It's got a 420 swap with a live axle kit. This build actually is for a buddy of mine that reached out, needed some help with this car. He's got limited mobility. So there was a lot of stuff that he was trying to get done that he just couldn't get done by himself. So we're gonna take this on, get this thing all fixed up for him. There's a list of stuff that I gotta get done. We have problems with the CVT throwing belt, chain alignment issues, problems with the brakes being way too undersized now that it has these massive tires put on it. We're gonna plumb in the original gas tank and remove the old 420 stock gas tank. Just it's a lot easier for him to fill from that one side. Just fix a couple of little wiring issues, get some lights on this thing. And yeah, there's a couple of other things we're gonna do to it. We're gonna see what we can get done in this next 2 weeks with the limited time that I have. I can get started right now. I'm gonna start by pulling some of the panels off, maybe getting the body off and getting down and seeing what's going on with this thing. I'm looking at it right now, trying to. So yeah, let's do that. Let's turn the old camera around and start filming some of the teardown stuff, I guess. One, two, three, four. Look at that. Yeah, One. Yeah. Yes. One of the big problems we were having is this intermediate chain between the secondary pulley and the transmission is very loose, and it doesn't actually have a way to be tensioned. This is, it's gotten so loose now that it's actually starting to skip over the teeth of the sprocket when it's under load. There's actually a lot of flex in this aftermarket motor plate, and it's causing this secondary pulley to flex down and make contact with the input shaft of the transmission. So what we're gonna try to do is find some way to actually put the engine on kind of a solid hinge and use the tilt of the engine to actually tension this chain. I don't want to have to move the transmission. If I start moving around that transmission, it's inadvertently going to start messing with the chain tension on this back chain. So if I can tip the motor forward and use the tipping as a tensioner, I'm going to do that. And it's really not a lot. I don't have to tip it much. A little bit of angle is going to go a long way with this thing. Ugh. So this is the aftermarket motor plate for the 420 swap for the club cars. And you can see it's got a lot of material pulled out of this center area. And I mean, I can almost flex this with my bare hands. It's really not that rigid. I'm going to take some tubing, some square tubing across the back, and I'm going to reinforce it in some key areas to get it a little bit more rigid. And then I'm going to figure out some type of hinging mechanism for the front so we can adjust the chain tension by simply just pivoting that motor. We're at a good starting point. So we're going to get started on that. But you can see how much like flex is in that plate. I'm bending it with just my hands, so we're gonna stiffen that way up. So I just finished up the hinges for the motor plate. Still have to get the hardware for them. Everything's just closed today, so I'm gonna do that tomorrow. But the plate itself is, the hinges are done. So this is gonna allow the plate to hinge up and down and adjust the tension on the mid chain to the transmission. So I'm just gonna put some slider plates on either side and a jack screw in the center, and you'll just undo the bolts on the slider plates and the locks. And then you'll just tension or loosen the jack screw to move the plate up or down to adjust your chain tension. You should just be able to do it with one hand. And that's the whole point. So I'm going to move on to getting those plates built. It shouldn't be too hard. I think I have most of the stuff here, but I'll get those built and then move on to the jack screw. So these stock motor plate mounts actually still line up with the holes. I didn't really mean to do that, but it worked out real good. So I was thinking the sliders might not be the best. Even though we have that jack screw, I don't really want taking all the weight. So if I could put these mounts back in, I think they'd work a lot better because there's no way you can push through these things. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to still put the jack screw in, but instead of having sliders, I'm going to use these and we can just shim them. Shim them with some washers. It's easy. It's still, you can do it with one hand. And I think that'll be the strongest. I just feel like the other way, it's just going to slip. And I don't want it to slip, so. I mean, it doesn't get much simpler than that. Yeah, I like that. Now we finished up with the motor plate. I got to pull this engine back out and try to figure out what's going on with that CVT and why it keeps throwing belts. Once that's figured out, we can put this motor back in for good and take it on our first test drive. I also noticed there's some issues with the panhard bar being too short and on the wrong angle, so I'm going to adjust that as well. But first I'm going to look into that CVT. Well, I noticed something right off the bat, and this clutch plate doesn't seem to be straight. It seems to have a little bit of a bend in it. And I think that's our problem. I think this plate somehow got bent somewhere along the way. I've already loosened it off a bit, but I'm gonna try to get this plate straightened out and bent back in line, and that should solve the issue with it throwing belts. Now that we have the CVT pulled off, you can see that there's quite a gap back here compared to forward here. Like that whole jack shaft's been twisted, and I don't know if it came stock like that right from the factory, because that plate doesn't look bent at all, but you can definitely tell that jack shaft is bent, and I don't know how, because there's no marks in any of this structure. There's no bend in the back plate, so I think it's just a dud. I think this one was welded up on a Friday. All right, so the bend is actually in, it looks like on the motor side of the plate. If I get my square hooked up here, you can see like we have quite a bend. I don't know if the camera picks that up at all. Move to this side. You can see there's quite a gap in there. So that got twisted somewhere, somehow. All right, so I tried straightening. All right, so I tried straightening the CVT with a press around this spot here. That seemed where it was bent. It seemed to be kicked out. So I pressed it back straight. Now I'll put it on, see if it fits. I guess that's all we can do. Better. Well, I think it's a good time to stop, just for this video. I didn't want to make a 60 or so minute video, and I got all the drivetrain stuff done, except for the brake, which we'll just put that in the next video. Other than that, it's a little bit of wiring, and I mean, we're pretty much ready to take this on a little test drive. I gotta get the body back on, get all the ignition wiring put back together, but shouldn't take too long. And I gotta plumb in the old gas tank. So not much left to do, but just a little bit too much for this video. So I guess we'll just wrap this up now, and then we'll do like a part 2 and test drive video too, because there's not a whole heck of a lot left, but I just didn't want it to be a 60-minute video. Thanks for watching, guys. I know it wasn't the most exciting episode that we've ever had, but this thing's gonna be pretty sweet when it's all done. Stay tuned for the next episode, guys. We'll be finishing this thing up. We'll be taking it on a test drive and sending it on its way and getting on to the next thing. So stay tuned, and thanks for watching. Like and subscribe if you want more, and we'll see you next week.